All right, guys, how's everybody doing? So it is Friday. Most of us have finished reading The Fire Next Time, or some of us have. I know I've had a couple of conversations with some people about the book, and having those conversations made me think that I should probably just do a recording and do kind of like a brief overview of like, what is this book, right? So to get started, obviously, we're going to be talking about The Fire Next Time. It's an incredibly like powerful, thought-provoking novel. It's not a novel, it's a book, and it consists of two essays. My Dungeon Shook, Letter to My Nephew on the 100th anniversary of the Emancipation Proclamation, and Down at the Cross, a letter from the region of my mind. So I'm going to kind of break these up, but before we get through that, in this entire book, so Baldwin is addressing race, religion, identity, the struggles of Black Americans in the context of the civil rights movement. And all the while, he's reflecting on his personal experiences. So I want us to really think about this because Baldwin's insights are as relevant as they were when he first wrote them. Um, and it kind of makes this text essential for understanding the complexities of race and power in America. So before diving in, it's important to understand that the context in which he wrote The Fire Next Time, this book was published in 1963, and that is the height of the civil rights movement. It's a period marked by profound racial tension, violence, and a growing demand for equality and justice for Black Americans. Baldwin himself was a queer Black man. If anybody has the physical copy, that is the picture of James Baldwin. But he lived through the Great Migration. He lived through World War II and the start of the Civil Rights Movement. His work reflects both the struggles and the promise of post-war America and the contradictory nature of American democracy. So, in The Fire Next Time, Baldwin critiques the deeply entrenched racism within American society, both at the systemic and individual level. Essentially, this book is a call for radical change. So, first, the structure, The Fire Next Time. The book is divided, as I said, into two essays. My Dungeon Shook, that's a deeply personal letter to Baldwin's 15-year-old nephew, James, who, if you have finished reading this, was named after James Baldwin. It's written as a warning and a call to understand the history and the implications of being Black in America. Baldwin urges his nephew to acknowledge the painful reality of racial oppression while also offering a message of hope and resistance. Baldwin's letter blends personal love and political urgency, urging his nephew to find strength in his identity, never give up, never give in to despair, and to understand that freedom and self-determination are always worth fighting for. Down at the Cross changes trajectory a little bit. So as that one was deeply personal, we go into a more like philosophical and reflective meditation on Baldwin's experiences with religion, race, identity. Um, Specifically, I don't want to go too far into it because I know some people may still be reading it. So if you've at least gotten halfway through that second essay, um, Baldwin's reflections on Christianity, specifically his experiences with the Black church, are critical and nuanced. He critiques the way that religion has been both used as a tool of oppression and a source of survival for Black Americans. He discusses his own disillusionment with the church, highlighting how religious institutions have been complicit in maintaining white supremacy while also acknowledging that the role of the church has played a significant part in sustaining Black communities. So just think about that for a minute. This tool that is used for your survival is also used to keep you in a space of oppression. And so that is where he really is like grappling with what does it mean to believe what does it mean to have authority and power? And as we saw, like at a very young age, he did have all of these things. Um, the essay also delves into Baldwin's understanding of deep psychological and emotional toll that racial segregation and discrimination have had on both Black and white Americans. So there's some themes that really arise in this book, and I kind of wanted to just pull out a few of them and talk about them just to help if anybody's struggling with like how to go about this claim of value essay. Feel free to email me. I've had a few people that have like talked to me about this, so it's exciting. I'm really excited to read your guys' work. But as far as like some key themes, the legacy of slavery and racism. Uh, Baldwin's critique of American society begins with this inescapable legacy of slavery. He argues that the trauma of slavery did not end with Emancipation Proclamation. Instead, its psychological and societal effects continued to shape race relations in America. Baldwin's work emphasizes that Black Americans are still fighting the lingering effects of institutional racism, which has been perpetuated through laws, social practices, and importantly, the white imagination, right? Especially like as he's saying it. So, another one, let me see. Racial identity and the struggle for self-determination. One of Baldwin's most poignant arguments is the necessity for Black Americans to understand and reclaim their identities. Baldwin's acutely aware that Black people in America have been forced into a subjugated position, shaped and distorted by the stereotypes and racist constructs of white America. He implores his nephew to resist being defined by these harmful images and to forge his own sense of self. Um, in Baldwin's view, racial identity is both a burden and a source of power. Understanding oneself within the context of historical oppression can be empowering, but it's also emotionally and psychologically taxing. Um, we have religion as a double-edged sword, if you will. Baldwin's relationship with religion, particularly Christianity, is central to The Fire Next Time. He critiques the way that white America has historically used Christianity as a tool to justify the dehumanization of Black people. He recounts his own experiences growing up in a strict authoritarian church environment and explores how religion has been both a means of oppression and the source of solace for Black Americans. So for Baldwin, Christianity is the context of slavery and racism. In the context of slavery and racism, it's basically just a tool that justified submission, if that, I hope that is making sense. But it's also like a space where Black Americans could reclaim their humanity and find hope. So it really is a very complex and nuanced like issue that he's grappling with here. Um, White America's denial of its own racism is something that he really goes into in this book. Baldwin is direct in his assertion that white Americans refuse to acknowledge their own role in the perpetuation of racial injustice. He argues that American ideal and racial democracy is a myth, and that white Americans, whether intentional or not, continue to deny the reality of racism that is baked into the country's social, economic, and political systems. Baldwin is scathing in his critique of white America, who insist, the Americans who insist that they're not racist, but they benefit from the systems that sustain this like racial inequality, right? Um, more than anything, to me, this book is it's a call to action. It's the need for radical change, and I think that's something that he talks about very firmly here throughout both essays. Baldwin is stressing the urgency for change. However, Baldwin's call for change is not rooted in violence or revenge. And that is a much different message than other like writers and speakers at this time. Rather, it's a demand for understanding, um, reconciliation, and a fundamental restructuring of the way white Americans view Black people and themselves, right? Baldwin suggests that until white Americans confront their own complicity in racism and acknowledge the dehumanizing effects of segregation, America will continue down a destructive path. He also points to the importance of Black Americans' agency in their own liberation and their right to self-determination, right? Um, I hope nobody's asking after reading this book, like, why did we read this book? But if you are, um, I just want to talk about like the legacy of this for a second. The Fire Next Time, it was published during a crucial period in American history and as the civil rights movement was gaining momentum, right? So Baldwin's work was a powerful voice that challenged both Black and white Americans to confront uncomfortable truths. His reflections were instrumental in shaping both the intellectual and the emotional debates around race and identity in the 1960s. I think that we have a lot that we can learn from him still today. What makes Baldwin's writing so powerful is its directness, its moral urgency. It is a deeply human perspective. I I have always argued that it's so straightforward because it's too important to beat around the bush here, right? What he has to say does carry this sense of urgency to it. He combines his personal experiences with political analysis to create a book that speaks to the heart of American experience, specifically like the Black American experience. But he does ask both Black and white Americans to confront their roles, to really grapple with this idea or this ongoing struggle for racial justice. Today, Baldwin's reflections continue to resonate as issues of racial injustice and equity persist in American society. The themes he explored in The Fire Next Time are not confined to the 1960s. They are timeless and they speak to the continued relevance of Baldwin's work in contemporary discussions about race, identity, social justice. Uh, I mean, kind of to wrap it up, The Fire Next Time, I think, remains one of the most powerful critiques of race and American society that has ever been written. Through the lens of personal experiences, philosophical inquiry, moral reflection, he forces us to confront these uncomfortable truths about past and present and the future of racial relations in America. Again, his work is a call to action, urging both Black and white Americans to examine their own complicity in this racial structure, to envision a more just and humane society. If for any reason you did really enjoy this, for lack of a better term, Baldwin's my dude. I have basically everything he's written. I really enjoy his work. But if you particularly were liking this, I would just throw out a suggestion here. Um, No Name in the Street. As much as we get hope out of The Fire Next Time, No Name in the Street is a follow-up almost, and it's the book that he wrote right before he died. It was not edited. It's raw, it's rough. Um, but we see him trying to maintain this hope that is much harder for him because at the time that he's writing this, Medgar Evers, Malcolm X, Martin Luther King have all died. And not only have they died, they have been killed, they've been assassinated, they have been snuffed out. And for James Baldwin, that was America's hope. And so he struggles, and you see this struggle of him trying to continue to maintain this firm grasp on, like, no, we do need love, we do need hope, we can get through this. We just need to find a new path. But it's just really, really good read. So if anybody did, like I said, like this, I'm sure they have it on Audible. I'm not sure. They may have it on Audible. You can possibly find an online copy, but he is a prolific writer. He is a wonderful person to take notes from. I hope that you all enjoyed it, even an iota as much as I enjoy him. But that's all for this. I told you I would try and keep it kind of brief, and hopefully I did. I don't have a timer running. But if you have questions, if you want to just chit chat about anything, you can totally hit me up for office hours. And I look forward to reading all of your work on this. All right. Thank you.